Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of the video series on modeling Eevee. This video we're going to cover the body. Our first part, which will be available in the playlist here, we covered the head and all of the features of the head. The second part here we're going to do the body, and the next video will be a photorealistic rendering of the character. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's go ahead now and work on the body. So I'm going to select the face here, and I'm going to change object layer to a new layer here and just hide it. Okay. And for the body, I'm going to use spheres, but I'm going to make sure I turn ortho on because I want to lock in the kind of symmetrical line to the y-axis here. So I'm going to go with the sphere command, sub D sphere here. I'm going to hit 0, enter. And then I want to change the diameter. So diameter is right there to 22. Enter. Okay. Okay, so then I want to also do another one. So I'm going to copy this one over. So just Alt, copy. And if your sphere doesn't look like mine, make sure that you have the sub D sphere command here with one set as your subdivisions. Okay. So the next step I want to do is I want to bridge these two shapes together. I'm going to scale the front up a little bit. So shift and pull on the gumball here. And then I'm going to go to face selection here and select this, shift, 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 shift click, and delete. And I'm going to use a new command called bridge to bridge these two shapes together. Bridge is a really cool command, but you do need to make sure you have the same amount of edges on both sides. So like what I mean by that is I switch to edge selection here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges here. And I'll have the same over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you can bridge them together. So with my edge selection tool turned on here, I'm going to type bridge, and I'm going to double click on this one, hit enter, double click on this one, and hit enter. And you can see it gives you the kind of joining area there. And then just hit enter. Okay. So that gives me kind of this capsule shape. And yeah, so let's tab over, look at our sub D. So yeah, when we tab, we can see the hard edge version of the sub D. Sub Ds are basically, of course, just a organic version of a polygon or a polysolid. So if I tab back and forth, you can see the different edges. And sometimes it's nice, of course, to edit those edges with our in the straight edge mode. Okay. All right, so now let's kind of form the body a little bit more. I'm going to switch to a vertice grab here, grab this vertice, kind of pull it up. Okay, I'm going to grab some edges, this edge over here and over here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to turn on symmetry. So let's do that again. Symmetry right here, click on this. Click on the object, and I can go 0, enter, just to kind of have my symmetry go in the direction I want, and click, enter. Now anything I do to this side will do to that side. So let's go ahead and kind of start playing around with the shape a little bit here. And I'm going to toggle this off. It's a little long here. Eevee is not a wiener dog. Okay, so next we'll control shift click and kind of move for the haunches. Okay. And then the underside is actually a little bit flatter, so let's go ahead and edge select and move this up. Okay. This back edge here, move down a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks good enough for now. If we have to adjust things, we can always do that later. All right, so then I'm going to right click on my symmetry just to turn it off. Select the object, enter, remove symmetry. All right. So next we'll do the legs. So the legs, I'm going to just go to a top view here. And, you know, even though I probably should do it from a right view, well, let's do it from a right view. Sure. Why not? So the legs, I'm just going to use a couple of lines and extrude them and turn it into a sub D. So I'm going to draw a circle. Switch over to our standard tools here. I can either type circle or draw a circle. I'm just going to draw a circle, and I'm going to draw that circle, try to have it kind of the same size as the posterior here. Okay. Move this over. And maybe I've got this. Let me turn that off, sub D tools, so I don't have any selection filtering going on. All right. And then I'm going to do a rectangle and just kind of draw that down. Oops. And I can play with the scale on this stuff a little bit later. And then I'll pull foot this way. And then I'm going to do, let's move this over a little bit. Do one more circle here, just as a guide. All right, and then let's pull into our curves here. So I'm going to go curve here to there. Actually, I want it to curve this way. So click over there. And then I'm going to turn ortho off because it's kind of bugging me. Enter. No, you know what? I don't even need this one. Let's go ahead and just trim. Set this as our cutting blade. Trim this little section here. Set this as our cutting blade. Trim this little section here. And then I'm going to grab this point. Go to there. Grab both of these points. So click on both of these objects. And there's a point that they have in common. Click on it. Curve point, shift, click on it to grab the other curve point. There we go. And then I'll just do a trim using this. And then I'm going to grab this edge. Whoops. Don't want the whole thing. Grab that point and move it there. And I do have under my snaps here, I've got the near on, which helps with some of this stuff. Okay, so let's see, we'll trim. This is the cutting blade, that out. Trim this as the, well, this is the cutting blade with that out. Trim. Then I'm going to explode these. Trim. Curve. Twice, because there's two of them there. All right. Let's join all this together. And then I'm going to start kind of playing around more with these points and just getting it right where I want. This point here. Kind of curve that in more. You can see there's 3 of these here, so I can pull this down. And on this one here, I want to pull up a little bit. Just kind of, so you get that back of the little leg area there. And then this transition from here to here is a little odd. So let's pull that way, down. Okay, that's kind of good. All right, and then the next thing, I'm going to grab this curve and I'm going to go ahead and extrude it. Maybe this paw might be a little too big right here. Hold on, pull that back. And then these ones in a little bit. There we go. That looks about right. Okay, so now I'm going to grab this shape, switch to perspective, and extrude it some. Okay, so this is my back leg here. So Z enter, S enter to lock in my zoom selection. And now I'm going to go ahead and quad remesh this. I'm going to set my quad count at 50. I'm going to have my Y axis turned on and convert to sub D turned on. And then go ahead and hit OK. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and put both of these, even though part of it's not a curves, but I'm going to change object layer here just to hide those. Kind of move it a little bit into position here. Okay. It's looking all right. So now we want to kind of puff it out a little bit. So let's grab just this edge point here. And you can see I should maybe try a little bit of soft edge selection here. So back to sub D tools, face select, grab the face, soft. And let's see, does it, yeah, it's kind of pulling on both sides, but not too bad. I can come back over here, lower this back down some, pull it back out. And I'm going to kind of merge these things together in a minute here, so that doesn't matter as much. Okay. All right, I think that looks all right. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to grab these two, these areas here, and I'm going to subdivide them so I can add more divisions to the space. So let's do that. Subdivide this one and that one. Oops. That's not what I wanted on this one. Maybe I can just, let's see if I can grab the edges here. Just wanted 4. Sure. Let's delete these two maybe. So I delete those edges out of there. Let me pull this one over a little bit. This one over a little bit. Reduce this down. Okay. So that kind of gives me where I can put a toe. So if I grab this face with my face selection and extrude it out, I get that. Do this one, extrude it out. Get that one. Do this one, extrude it out. Okay. And then I can grab these edges here. Let's see what a crease looks like. Switch it over to rendered here. Yeah. Maybe a little too strong of a crease, so type sub D crease. And we'll change the percentage of the weight of the crease here. I'm going to do 80. Okay. All right, and I think that this middle toe is a little bit bigger than the other ones, so let's kind of change that out a little bit. So just grab here, shift click, and then scale it out some. Okay. All right, so that kind of gives me the paw. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and mirror it onto the other side. We cancel out of any selection tool I've got here. Move it over so it's kind of lined up. And mirror it over. 0, enter. Shift to ortho, click. Okay. Let's move these back a little bit here. And move it down. And I can change scale and all that stuff in a little bit here. All right, so front legs should be even easier. Let's go to a right view again. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle and a rectangle. Okay. And then explode them both. Standard, explode, and trim using each other as a cutting angle. Trim, trim. Join. And perspective, extrude, oops. The curves do not extrude and intersecting. Okay, I've got some stealth intersecting thing going on here. I don't know how I did that. Oh, I know. Let me explode it. So that's a good thing to notice. I have overlapping curves. So these curves down here, delete that one. That was part of the other rectangle from the top and the bottom. So it had double lines on here. Don't want those. So join them together. And now it should extrude. Okay. And I don't care if it's blocky because I'm going to do quad remesh, and maybe I'll do 40 instead just to see if it works. All other settings, keep it like that. Cool. All right, and then we will isolate. Look at it in the front here. We're going to turn symmetry on. Shift with ortho, click, enter. All right. And it's a little thicker at the top. So I'm going to grab these, kind of thicken it out. Left to right select, grab those, scale it in, down, in, and down here. Then the whole thing, I think, is a little bit thicker. Okay. Remove. Right click, click, enter, and then subdivide these faces again here. So face select, subdivide, subdivide. wonder if I do them both. There we go. Yeah, do them both at the same time. It works better. So again, subdivide. Oops. Right click. There we go. Subdivide. Select faces. This one. Shift this one. Subdivide. And since we had both of them there, they gave us a little bit better information. Okay. And then switch to edges here. And I'm going to grab that edge loop and delete it. And then I'm going to grab this one right here, delete that. And then switch to faces, pull out this face with the little ball here. Boom. This face here. And this face. Okay. And the whole thing looks a little bit too long, so pull it back that way. All right, bring everything back. Cancel out my sub selection. Click up here. Delete this. And I'll delete that. All right. Switch back to a right view. I'm going to scale it a little bit. And then this part of the foot looks a little odd, so Command Shift and left to right select. Let's scale it down some. Control Shift or Command Shift. If you have a Mac, pull up these little sections here. And even these back feet do look a little odd. Control Shift, left to right, pull it back this way. Okay. And then I'm going to mirror this over from our 0, Shift to have ortho on, and click. Okay, now that we've got the body done here, let's move on to the tail. And then we've, of course, got to do like that mane area around him, and we're pretty much done. So, okay, so the tail. How are we going to do the tail? So let's see. I'm going to do a different form of modeling here because the tail does have like this white end on it that has like a little bit of a wavy kind of pattern. And having a wavy pattern is not really conducive to sub Ds. So I'm going to show you kind of a new method here. So I'm going to just use some standard nurbs based surface modeling. I'm going to draw a cone. Just type cone, not sub D cone, but just cone. And we're going to talk a little bit about control points and manipulating surfaces. So this cone here is not considered a surface. It is considered a closed solid poly surface. So we can't manipulate that like we can a surface. But all you have to do is extract that bottom surface. So command is extract surface, enter, and then delete that surface. And now when we click on it, it's just a surface. Fun fact, a sphere is also just considered a surface, right? We talked about that earlier. It's considered a closed surface. So the reason why it's important to use surfaces is because with surfaces, we have something called control points. So if I type points on, you can see I have these little points that I can grab and kind of manipulate, right? And I can do that same thing with this as well. So you've got these points you can grab and manipulate. You cannot do that with a closed solid poly surface. You can only do that with surfaces, closed surfaces and surfaces. So that we could have also used to make the face here, no problem. But problem that I've got with this right now is actually the quantity of control points doesn't allow me to control the way I want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate this. My standard tab here, go up to the light box here again and isolate. Okay. And as always, I like to kind of work on this at the 0 level. So I'm going to move, enter, with our snaps, with the center snap on. I'm going to highlight right there and click and go 0, enter. So that when I switch to a front view, we're in the middle. When I switch to a top view, we are also in the middle. So front, perfect. Perspective, back here. Z, enter, S, enter to zoom in on the selected object. And let's go ahead and turn on some control points. I'm sorry, let's increase the quantity of control points by rebuilding. So we type rebuild. And I'm going to have around there 5, vertically 8. I think that looks good. And maybe I'll do 7 actually. Because I'm thinking about how I'm going to bulge out the middle. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So now I've got more control points I can play with. So I'm going to go to a front view here. And I'm going to left to right select. And actually, let's do these bottom ones first. These two down here, left to right select. And shift and pull this section in. Okay, left to right select on these bottom ones here. Shift and pull these ones in. Left to right select here. Shift and pull these in. Actually, let's rebuild it again. And I'm going to reduce the vertical by 1 here. Okay. Trying to get this distribution of parts a little bit better. Shift and scale it in. All right, that's looking better. And then I'm going to left to right select here and shift and scale it out. Perfect. Okay, from a perspective view here, looks good. Looks like the tail I want it to be. All right, so next step is to grab this point at the top here, and I kind of want to curve the tail like it's wagging a little bit, like just a little posy to it. Okay, and it's a little sharp, but you know, if you bring it in a little closer, it might, pointy enough, it's fine. Cool, so that looks about the way I want it to. I'm actually going to rotate this 45 degrees, or 90 degrees here. I'm trying to get it lined up with the Z axis. Why? I don't know, just because I want to. All right, then I'm going to go to a top view here, and I'm going to draw that kind of wavy pattern in a circle. So the way you do that, I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm just going to do it right here so I don't have to mess with the snaps and stuff. Shift to align it to the grid, and I'm going to pull it right about there. Once I get it lined up, I can always, of course, change the size. Okay, so now we've got the circle. What we want to do is we want to rebuild it, and I'm going to do it with 20 control points and use a degree of 2. And then we're going to left to right select every other control point. And you also, so this is going to be projected onto that cone. So then I'm going to hold down a shift and kind of pull it in. And don't pull it too much. I mean, you might think you need more than you do. I'm going to kind of leave it like that. And that might even still be wrong. We'll have to check it out. So I'm going to grab the curve. I'm going to then move it, keeping it kind of in line. I might scale it in a little bit more. Okay. Okay, so we got it all lined up here. Next thing I want to do is let's look at this thing. So I don't like how sharp this point is here. There's really no way to like fillet the edge or round it or anything like that. But what we can do is we can actually, we can convert this to a sub D, and the sub D won't have quite that same point if I do it just the standard way. So if I type 2 sub D, it's going to use the control points to create the mesh, and I can go ahead and say delete input yes, because I'm confident of how it's going to look. But make sure you've got use mesh control points, mesh creases are no, mesh corners are no, and surface location. Yeah, all of that's good. Enter. Cool. So now I've got a sub D that if I look at it in rendered, it doesn't quite have as sharp of a tip on it. Okay, I might even want to manipulate this a little bit more. Let's go back into shaded here before I do anything else. So I'm going to grab sub D tools here, and we'll go to our point here. Grab this point on the tip and kind of, turn my soft selection up higher. Kind of pull the whole tip in a little bit that way. Just got a nice little wag to it. Cool. And then I'm actually going to grab this line right here and bring it down a little bit more. Oh, let's turn it off. Lower this down some because I just want to really affect that. Yeah. Cool. So that's going to give me my tail shape. And then what I can do here is cancel out of all of this. And then I'm going to go to nurbs. So I'm just going to switch it back. And then delete input. I'll leave it at no for now. And I'll move this over here. Okay. So that gives me a nurb surface. And you can see that it built this thing at the top that makes up for the pointiness that it had before. Okay, so we got that. Let's go back over to our top view here. And I'm going to project under my standard here, project the curve onto a surface. So I'm going to select this object, enter, and project it onto this object, enter. Switch back into perspective here. Let's see how it looks. Ooh. Let's see. Not quite perfect. Let's go ahead and I'm going to move that over a little bit. So undo. Have to be in a top view for this to work, of course. So because it will project in that area. So I'm going to move this a little bit forward here. And I can see where that circle is in the middle there. That's kind of a better guideline. Okay. And I'm going to move this over a little bit more. Okay. Project it again. So curve, enter, surface, enter, perspective. And that's almost correct. Let's do it one more time, just for the sake of perfection. All right. So this time I'm actually going to move it a little bit back. I mean, because the shape is curved, little changes make a big difference. Okay, project again. This on to this. Back to perspective. That's how I want it. Perfect. Okay, so I can get rid of these guidelines, or I can put them on my curves layer as well. Change the object layer. Boom. And delete that. Awesome. All right. Next step, I'm going to cap this. So it's now a solid object because it has a flat bottom on it. Then I'm going to split this. Split this, enter, with this, enter. Okay. Now we have a separate object there. Great. So that's the white little kind of furry part of the tail. I could also just leave it like that, have it on a different layer, and it would still be fine as a separate material. But what I might want to do is, this is an experiment. Let's see if this works. So offset surface. This whole thing, offset, enter. I'm going to do a 0.1 distance, and let's see how the tip might not work. So we'll try it out. Enter. Okay, it looks like it did. All right, cool. So now when I look at it in rendered here, you'll be able to see. Yeah, so that gives you a little bit more of a sense of like the fur is a different thing. Okay, cool. So we are done with the tail. Let's go ahead and I'm going to create a new layer also over here, this blue layer. I'm going to call it sub D. because we're going to be changing a lot of stuff from nurbs to sub Ds and or from sub D back to nurbs again in a second here. So let's go ahead and go change object layer, and I'm going to hide that layer. And then right click on our standard toolbar little light there, or light bulb. Yeah. And then I'm going to move this back in space and move our dude here back to 0. So move, enter. I'm going to find a point at the tip of the nose there and go 0, enter. And yours might still be at 0. Okay, cool. All right. So the last step is going to be, well, last couple of steps are going to be to create the mane that goes around it, like the fur that goes around the neck, and then position this object, so this character, so it looks a little bit better, and then smooth everything out, and you know, that kind of thing. So, all right, looking at how this looks here, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go to a front view. Actually, no, I think I'm going to go just stay in perspective for a minute here. Back over to sub D tools. And I'm going to use a cone, and I'm going to grab this cone and pull it out and up. Okay. And then I'm going to crease the tip. So also, we got to make sure when we're doing the sub D cone, we have kind of the same settings here. So let me just show you what I've got. I've got 4 vertical faces, 4 faces around. Okay. And I'm creasing the tip, and I'm creasing the sides there. All right, and then I'm going to kind of go to a front view and tweak this a little bit more. Left to right select, kind of pull this out. Perfect. Perspective here. And then I'm going to Alt to copy this over and scale it in. Move it down. Okay. And then I'm going to click on this tip area here and move it kind of over like that. All right. And then I'm going to actually, let's crease a couple more areas here. These two here on the front, maybe. Yeah, that gives it, I like that. Okay. Let's mirror this to the other side. Shift to lock into ortho. And then let's do an Alt to copy this one, scale it out. And this one, I actually scale it narrower. And a little bit, so it's kind of a fat, short one. Let's switch to a front view here so I can kind of see how these are lining up. Okay. rotate them all around here. And mirror this one to the other side. Pull these in a little bit. Okay, back to perspective. Just kind of look at it. And I'm going to make this one kind of chunk out. Mirror again. I'm going to go from this tip of this vertex here. For some reason, this one's not straight. Okay, that I think looks pretty good. So just, playing with how they're laying together. And that's going to give us, if I look at it in rendered here, kind of like a little furry front. Okay. Cool. So next I'm going to go ahead and just group these together. And we'll switch back over to our shaded view. And we're going to make more of them and change the scale of them and stuff like that too. So let's do that. So these have to go around the neck here. So I want to actually create a circle that goes around the neck. So let's go to a front view. I'm going to lock all this down. So lock. Okay. And then I'm going to draw a circle from 0, enter, and kind of come out, I don't know, a certain degree there. And then grab the circle, switch to a right view, Z, enter, S, enter, move it back, and rotate it. And I'm going to use this as a guide for a polar array. Okay, cool. So go to perspective. All right, let's actually go to a front view again. I'm going to grab this, group it together. Okay, and now I'm going to pull it over here and kind of line it up because, you can see the scale is all completely off. So shift to scale it down to about the right size. Okay, and then back to perspective again. Okay, and then I'm going to isolate just these two things. So standard, click, drag, click. Oh, I've got that locked. Unlock these two things, isolate them together. Okay. All right, so this is going to be what we want, but we want it to also make duplicates of this and have it go around this circle. So I'm going to take my auto C-plane and turn it on, click on the circle, and that gives me the C-plane on this circle. Then I'm going to go array, I'm going to go array polar, select the object to array, enter, select the center of my circle. So we got to make sure our snap center is on, center the circle, and number of them I'm going to change to 4. And then click on the perpendicular here and hit enter for 360. Enter again. I tabbed over, I'm sorry. Okay, so that now gives us 4 of them around a circle. Let's go ahead and turn off auto C-plane. Okay. Actually, let's do it again, but oops. Edit, redo, hide. Okay. Let's move this onto this circle and do it again. So move this to where it lines up on that circle. Probably be better. Okay, so let's do that again. Auto C-plane, click on this. Array polar. Select the object to escape because it's arraying the circle. Array polar, select the object, enter, select the center of our circle. Enter, and we have 4 already selected. So then we click, enter, enter. All right, cool. And then we turn off auto C-plane. And then we bring everything back. And you can see, of course, we do have different sizes of these on the sides. The big one is on the front here. So if I scale this down, right? Get rid of this one. Actually, I can just mirror that one over. Rotate this into position. Click out of it, click back in. So it changes the orientation of my orbit. Click out of it, click back in. Cool. So the next couple of things I want to do is, let me cut, see if I can, oh, that's good. I could play with the fur all day just to really make it look as good as I want it to. Next thing I'm going to do is let's rotate this tail into position here. Down, over, rotate. All right, so now we'll put it into rendered. Cool, get rid of this curve. And it's looking pretty good. However, I find that the area where the haunches kind of meet to the body, all of that stuff is a little bit awkward. I'm gonna go ahead now and and reclassify everything as different layers just to make everything nice and lined up. So I've got this whole area here as the head area, but it's not all one piece yet. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this whole thing, Control C to copy it to the cutting plane. I'm going to do a new layer. I'm going to call this layer separate, sub D. So all of the stuff that's sub D's in here, change object layer and hide that layer, and then Control V to bring it back, because I'm going to start making this all one piece. So I'm going to Boolean union all of these pieces and parts together. Oops. Boolean union. And so all of the things that are sub Ds will become nurbs, and it'll all become one object. Okay. And then I'm going to take this layer 2 that I've already got here that it's on, and I'm going to call it head. But then I want to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it eyes, and another new one, and I'm going to call it ear inside. Okay. And then a new one, I'm going to call it nose. And then another new one, and I'm going to call it mouth. And another new one, I'm going to call it body. Another new one, I'm going to call it fur. Okay. Cool. So the body goes on the body layer. So I'm going to select these parts here and this part of the tail. And I'm going to change that, right click, change object layer. I'm going to change the color here, and I'll do a chartreuse. Okay. And then the fur, I'm going to select everything that's going to be basically putting layers for everything that's going to have a different color on it. And then change object layer. And I'll make this one brown. Okay. Okay, now we got everything on different layers. Oh, we got to still do these parts here. So extract surface. I'm going to do this surface, that, and that. And then I'm going to do this one as well. Extract those surfaces. Enter. Join. Enter. So they're all one piece. And then I'm going to call this eyes. Right click. Change object layer. Color. Cyan. All right. And then these eye parts here, I'm going to do another layer, and I'm going to call it highlight. Because those are just like the white highlights of the eyes. Change object layer. Okay. Extract surface again. And this time I'm going to do the nose. Shift to add to the selection. Z enter, S enter. Even while I'm in the command, I can do that. Enter. Change object layer. Okay. Oh, I forgot to join those. Would have been nice. So left to right select. Shift, shift. Join. Like to have everything all as one piece when I extract it. Extract surface, this one, this one, this one, and that one. Enter. Join. And right click, change object layer. Cool. And then extract surface again. And this time we're going to do this. Got to grab All right, enter, join, ear inside. Cool, so everything's on layers. The next thing I want to do is, let's mess with this body a little bit more. Select objects, and then I'm going to isolate it. Okay. Okay, so we've got this isolated now. We want to actually kind of create a pose for this. So if I go to rendered here, you can see the back legs are floating above the front legs, which is not great. I mean, the front legs are floating above the back legs based off of where they are in position. I can just go ahead and scale this down until, let me do both of them at the same time, actually. Scale these down until they kind of hit the ground. You can see when it starts manipulating the other side, you want to stop. Okay. And then maybe I want, you know, this leg to kind of rotate a little bit back. So the dog's like, or the dog, so the character is like on its like forward momentum or something. And then maybe I want to even kind of pull this area back a little bit this way. Let's do it to both sides. A little thickness there. Okay. Let me go ahead and bring everything back. Let's look how it looks. No, I guess I didn't need to do those last two steps, right? Because the fur is kind of covering it. There, yeah. So just trying to kind of give it a little bit more of a pose. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. All right, so let's go ahead and select the body again and go back into shaded and re-isolate. So this is the step where you would pose your character when you still have the legs and everything separate. Because what we're going to do next is we're going to actually Boolean union all this together. So Boolean union. And that changes this to a nurbs object, which would be a closed solid poly surface. Awesome. So next, let's talk a little bit more about some workflow that you can do to make this kind of smooth out a little bit better, because it looks very mechanical right now, and I would like these joints to kind of blend into the body, where the legs and the haunches and all of that kind of meat, I would like that to kind of blend a little better. So the way I'm going to do that is change it back to a sub D, and that's going to kind of smooth things out. But going from a nurbs to a sub D object with this complicated of a form tends to be problematic. Let me show you what I mean. So if I go quad remesh, and I'm going to select a target count of 1,050 adaptive, convert to sub D, smart y-axis, okay. One, it's going to take a while. And when we look at it, you see the topology here is kind of funky. There's some weird crimping and pinching. If I look at it in rendered here, you can definitely see, look at those mangled toes and stuff. There's holes in the mesh. There's all kinds of problems with this. And it took me forever to figure out how to make this work the way I want it to. But lucky for you, I already figured it out. So I'm going to click on this and delete it. Go back to shaded here. And we're going to talk briefly about meshes. So a mesh is different from nurbs. Meshes are what is used when we transfer things like, so say you design something in Blender, you would export it to, as an FBX file, which is a type of file that is legible by other software. It's a motion builder kind of format that also includes all the materials and stuff. You can bring that into a game engine, all that kind of stuff. So it's more of a ubiquitous language for the topology of a 3D object. So meshes are very standard in the design world when it comes to 3D design. But we need to change this from a NURB to a mesh back to a sub D in order to get the topology that we want. So all you got to do, it's really easy. You just type mesh, enter. And this is the amount of detail. So if I click on preview here, you can see I'm keeping a lot of detail. You can go fewer polygons, like if you're doing a gaming engine, but you might lose some of the geometry if you do that. You know, I'm actually looking at it in preview here. It does not look too bad. Adaptive subdivision level, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So now I'm going to isolate the mesh so that we're just looking at the mesh here. Whoops, I isolated the wrong thing. Polysurface, hide, enter. Okay, so this is the mesh, and you can see it's made up of quads and tris, squares and triangles. What I want to do next is I want to, let's look at it real quick in rendered. You can see accurate still. Okay, shaded. Next, I want to quadrillate the mesh. Quadrangulate. Let's try saying that 10 times. Quadrangulate the mesh. Okay, and then just hit OK. And so that's going to clean out some of the triangles, not all of them, but some of them. And then after I quadrangulate the mesh, I'm going to now convert it back to a sub D. So now I'm going to quad remesh. Okay. And keep all my settings just like this. And these are the exact same settings we had before, but look at the difference. One. And hide. Oops, I hid the wrong thing. I thought last time Control C. Quad remesh. Okay, I undid it. All right, isolate. Look at the difference, right? All of those quads are so even. There's a plugin for Blender that costs $100 that you can use that does something similar to this, but I think that it works so much better actually in Rhino. And you can bring any mesh into Rhino and do this to it, and it works really well. So that's a very powerful tool. But what I really wanted to do is kind of smooth things out here. And I think that the front legs actually already look pretty good. It's just this weird back leg, you know, like there shouldn't be that much of a dip in there. So I'm just going to go in here, turn on, go to my sub D tools, and I'm going to first put on symmetry. So we do this on both sides. Select the object and do my reference at this kind of vertex in the middle. Or type 0, right? Shift, click, enter. All right. So I'm going to come through here and use some edge filtering and just delete some edges because we've got too many of them, right? Like I'm going to delete. Well, I probably should have done 2 of them at a time. Delete that one, but I'm going to also shift select these kind of ones in here. Double click there, double click there, delete. See, I'm just trying to bring out that dip, and that dip just is made up of extra information that, while it represents what was on our original, it's what I'm trying to clean up. Delete. No, I did that wrong. Hold on a second. There we go. I'm trying to leave it in quads just because the designer in me knows that that's the best way to do it. Not that one. All right, let's look at it rendered. Cool. So you can see that the body looks a little bit more organic, which is what we're going for here. Shaded wireframe, back to shaded here. All right, I'm gonna right click on this and then click on this and then hit enter to get out of that. And then I do have some of these that are no longer quads. Yeah, if you wanted to be a super nerd, you could probably re-quadrelate it. Let's maybe quad remesh again, same settings, okay. And there we go. Now we've got the perfect form. So this one with the weird sections there no longer exists. So we undo that. Which one was it? Okay, I got two meshes on top of each other. That I think is the wrong one. Yeah, there we go. So now this one's all quadrelated properly. So this one's ready to go to Pixar. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm talking about. You want to have perfect quads all the way around it. This is like if you were going to bring something to an animation studio and be like, is this correct? They would want to see that it's quads. And I lost my feet. Dang it. So yeah, now I got to fix my feet a little bit. Z enter, S enter, and let's go ahead and just pull these out like that. Oh, I turned off symmetry, right? Let's do symmetry again. Symmetry to you. Oops, symmetry to you. Zero, enter, click, enter. Okay, let's go to face select. Oops, let's go here. And then pull these out. Okay. Bring everything back. Let's look at it in rendered here. Yeah, so the bottom of the feet do look a little bit funny, but I'm going to actually fix that pretty easily. But I do like the way the haunches look much better. We got everything nice. So again, I'm going to click on my symmetry here, right click on it and click on this object to get rid of the symmetry. Click on the, get rid of my face selection here. Click on this whole part. And I'm going to Control C to copy it to the clipboard. And then I'm going to put the sub D on this one. Change object layer. Boom. Hidden. Control V brings it back. And now I'm going to make this all one piece here. So let's see. I'm going to go to a bottom view or right view. And I'm just going to draw a flat line. It's all the way across. And I want it to get rid of this little funkiness at the bottom here. So it's going to form two different things. Split this object, enter with this object, changes it to nurbs, close, get rid of this part here, get rid of this part here, all the extra. And then I'm going to cap this. So that will put a flat bottom on it. If I switch back to perspective now, you can see feet are kind of flat on the bottom. Actually, maybe a little higher, right? Let's see. Go to a right view. Because I want it to be perspective. Okay. Split this with this. Cap. Okay, right view. Left to right select. Delete. Perspective. All right. I'd probably work on those feet a little bit more before I converted them back from sub Ds, but I don't want to just spend too much time on this. So great. Next step is materials and finishing touches.